Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Ollie Barrett. It is a very busy Friday indeed, so we'll get cracking with the headlines. The Kremlin says it's concerned by an uptick in fighting in eastern Ukraine between Kiev's army and separatists backed by Moscow. Ukraine says it has no intention to attack. On Saturday, President Vladimir Putin will oversee military drills involving Russian forces, including ballistic and cruise missile launches. Hong Kong's identified more than 20,000 hotel rooms for quarantine accommodation as the global financial hub battles a surge in COVID-19 cases. Britain's army is on standby, and the country's meteorological service has issued a danger to life warning for London as storm Eunice makes landfall. More than 280 people are evacuated from a ferry in northwestern Greece that caught fire while heading to southern Italy. Olympic chief Thomas Bach says it is chilling to witness Russian teenage skater Kamila Valieva crumble under pressure at the Beijing Winter Games while hitting out at the 15-year-old's entourage. The West continues frantic efforts to prevent a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine. US President Joe Biden will host a call with European leaders and top officials later. According to the latest estimates by Ukrainian officials, the number of Russian troops near Ukraine's border has reached 149,000, with heavy artillery, armoured vehicles, attack helicopters and a field hospital stationed there. Meanwhile, Munich is hosting its security conference with Ukraine atop the agenda. World leaders are assembling at the Bayerischer Hof Hotel in Munich for the annual security meeting. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, US Vice President Kamala Harris and NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg are among the dignitaries who'll be attending. Moscow has already announced it will not be sending any delegation to the conference. That marks the first no-show for Russia in years. Next week, though, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Russian Foreign Minister will hold another round of talks, reportedly in Moscow. The US State Department says Blinken's accepted an invitation to meet Sergei Lavrov, provided there is no invasion of Ukraine in the meantime. Well, our correspondent Trent Murray reports now from Berlin.
This meeting comes off the back of what is growing concerns across Europe that Russia is indeed not pulling back its forces from the border of Ukraine like the Kremlin has said they would. And certainly Germany is joining both the United Kingdom and the US in expressing alarm over all of that. So this meeting in Munich really comes at a very important time. And there are some very, very big hitters, I suppose you could say, of global politics arriving here to discuss this crisis. The conference kicks off today, where we're going to see Antonio Guterres from the United Nations speak, as well as Anthony Blinken, the US Secretary of State. We'll also hear from Bill Gates later in the day to talk about the pandemic. So there are many issues on the agenda for the Munich Security Conference, but of course it really is all falling in the shadow of that ongoing crisis in Ukraine, as once again Washington, London, Berlin all continue to express concern that a conflict could erupt at any moment.
Well, the US has reissued its warnings of a potential imminent Russian invasion after widespread shelling between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian separatists across the eastern front line.
How high is the threat of a Russian invasion right now?
It's very high.
U.S. President Joe Biden said on Thursday there was now every indication Russia was planning to attack Ukraine. His comments came after reports Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed rebels traded fire across a tense front line. And America's top diplomat warned the flare-up could be used as a pretext by Moscow to send in troops.
Our information indicates clearly that these forces, including ground troops, aircraft, ships, are preparing to launch an attack against Ukraine in the coming days.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken addressed the UN Security Council and said that American intelligence believed Russia was ready to choreograph a false justification to launch its attack.
It could be a fabricated so-called terrorist bombing inside Russia, the invented discovery of a mass grave, a staged drone strike against civilians, or a fake, even a real, attack using chemical weapons.
Blinken pleaded with Moscow to choose diplomacy over conflict.
Diplomacy is the only responsible way to resolve this crisis.
Russia denies planning to invade its neighbor and said this week it was pulling back some of the more than 100,000 troops it had massed near the frontier. And Russia's defense ministry on Thursday released a video statement claiming more Russian units were leaving the area near the border. But Washington says Russia is not withdrawing and was in fact sending more forces. Biden told reporters a Russian attack could be imminent.
My sense this will happen within the next several days.
Ukraine and pro-Russian rebels gave conflicting accounts of shelling across the front in the Donbass separatist region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the pro-Russian forces had shelled a kindergarten in what he called a big provocation. The separatists, for their part, accused government forces of opening fire on their territory 4 times in the past 24 hours. The details could not be established independently. Video footage released by Ukrainian police showed a hole through a brick wall in a room scattered with debris and children's toys. Separate images showed emergency workers escorting small children and teachers from a building.
It is minus 11 degrees Celsius in the Canadian capital at the moment, but 2 protesters have found a unique way to stand their ground in the freezing temperatures. They've staged a jacuzzi protest outside Parliament in Ottawa. The protesters have set up a hot tub in the middle of the streets in central Ottawa, surrounded by trucks and demonstrating banners.
You get $1, like worth nothing. Yeah, we are in the jacuzzi making peace. Peace for show all the world how Canadians gonna protest. Peace. We're not terrorists. We don't hide gun here and anywhere. We are peaceful protest here, lawfully here with your trucks. Support freedom, to save children from vaccination, from putting masks. We're gonna win. We are winning. Yeah. We got strong hands, working hands. Working hands do that.
The protests have continued despite Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's announcement of an Emergencies Act. Interim Chief of Ottawa Police has issued a warning to picketing demonstrators, and police have begun to harden the perimeter around the Parliament area, installing new barriers there.
The Ottawa Police Service, the RCMP and the OPP, as well as numerous police agencies in Ontario and Quebec, are now here in Ottawa. We've been bolstering our resources, developing clear plans, and preparing to take action. The action is imminent. In the past few days, we've been communicating directly with the unlawful protesters. We've told them they must leave, and we have warned them the consequences of disobeying these rules. We want to end this unlawful protest peacefully and safely. We are prepared to employ lawful techniques to remove the unlawful protesters from our streets.
Organiser Tamara Lick has been taken into police custody. And as the protests enter the 3rd week, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has once again slammed the demonstrations, declaring the movement a threat to the Canadian economy and democracy as well.
I will be sharing my time with the Minister of Public Safety. The blockades and occupations are illegal. They're a threat to our economy and relationship with trading partners. They're a threat to supply chains and the availability of essential goods like food and medicine. And they're a threat to public safety.
Concerns are growing over the emotional and mental well-being of Russian skater Kamila Valieva after she missed out on a medal in the women's single skate event at the Beijing Olympics. Valieva made repeated errors and the 15-year-old fell twice while attempting her signature quad tope loop move. She was in tears as she left the rink, as what seemed a certain medal ended up being a fourth-place finish. There were no comforting words from her team in the immediate aftermath, with microphones picking up coach Eteri Tutberidze admonishing the teenager for giving up. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach slammed the support system within the Russian team.
When I afterwards saw how she was received by her closest entourage, with such a, what appeared to be a tremendous coldness, it was chilling to see this, rather than giving her comfort, rather than to try to help her. You could feel this chilling atmosphere. This distance.
Valieva led Russia to the gold in the team figure skating performance, becoming the first skater to land a quadruple jump during an Olympics. But a day after the event, a positive doping test was revealed. It had been conducted on December the 25th in Russia, but the result was declared on February the 8th. Valieva was provisionally suspended but cleared on appeal by the Russian anti-doping agency RUSADA. The IOC and WADA appealed that exoneration, but the Court of Arbitration for Sport ruled that Valieva's status as a protected athlete due to her age and the exceptional circumstances of the case meant she should be allowed to compete. Her performance on Thursday led to renewed criticism of that CAS decision.
But I must say I was very, very disturbed yesterday when I watched the competition on TV and saw first in her performance how high the pressure on her must have been.
Valieva's exit does remove one potentially awkward moment for the IOC. It had decided not to hold a medal ceremony if Valieva finished on the podium, as the inquiry into her positive doping case would still have been ongoing. Valieva's teammate, world champion Anna Shcherbakova, took the gold ahead of another Russian, Alexandra Trusova, who was distraught at finishing second despite landing 5 quad jumps. Japan's Kaori Sakamoto took the bronze medal.
Очень переживала за нее, потому что с первого прыжка было видно, как тяжело ей дается такой прокат. И я понимаю это чувство спортсмена. Это очень непросто докатывать программу, поэтому, безусловно, я лично скажу ей все, что я думаю об этом.
The United Kingdom's Met Office has issued a rare red weather alert in southwest Britain. The army's been put on standby as Storm Eunice moves across the country. The Met Office's red warning means there is a danger to life from flying debris. It could be the worst storm in the UK in over 30 years. Storm Eunice's impact is likely to be felt across southwest England, as well as Greater London, Kent, Surrey, Essex, East Sussex. All of those regions are on high alert as well, and the southern coast of Wales has a flood warning in place. Driven by high-speed winds, strong tidal waves hit the coastline. Transport has been hit as well. Several roads and bridges are closed as a precaution. In Birmingham, a truck overturned due to strong winds, while houses reported damage and trees have been uprooted. Railways and airports are reporting delays because of bad weather, and many schools, parks and the London Eye have been closed. The government's issued an advisory asking people to reconsider travel and to stay indoors if they can. The weather departments predicted that Storm Eunice could produce winds up to 95 miles an hour. And in Central Europe, storms there have killed at least 6 people and caused widespread travel disruption. In Germany, a giant wave crashed into a ferry. Strong winds have downed power lines and led to infrastructure damage, killing 4 and leaving many people stranded. In Poland, winds have ravaged homes and uprooted trees. 2 people have died after a crane collapsed under wind pressure. A polar vortex has activated Atlantic troughs, leading to strong cyclonic conditions. The region is expected to witness more storms in the coming days. A major fire has broken out on a ferry in Greece. There were 288 people on board. Next, Tesla is accusing the US Securities and Exchange Commission of harassment. The company's told the federal judge that the panel is persecuting CEO Elon Musk through unrelenting and endless investigations. It claims that Musk is being targeted because he's an outspoken critic of the US government.
Tesla and its CEO, Elon Musk, on Thursday accused the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission of harassing them with what they called an endless and unrelenting investigation, arguing that it is meant to punish Musk for being an outspoken critic of the government. The accusation came in the form of a letter from Alex Spiro, a lawyer representing both Tesla and Musk, to U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan in Manhattan. Spiro added, "Enough is enough." The SEC declined to comment. Thursday's letter escalates Musk's battle with regulators as they scrutinize his social media posts and Tesla's treatment of workers, including accusations of discrimination. The SEC sued Musk back in 2018 after he tweeted he had funding secured to potentially take his electric car company private at $420 per share, when in reality a buyout was not close. Tesla and Musk settled by agreeing to each pay $20 million in civil fines, and to let Tesla lawyers vet some of Musk's communications in advance, including tweets that could affect Tesla's stock price. In addition, Musk gave up Tesla's chairmanship. On February 7th, Tesla's disclosure said it had received a subpoena from the SEC about its compliance with the 2018 settlement. Spiro has asked Judge Nathan to schedule a conference to find out why the SEC is issuing subpoenas unilaterally without court approval, and why the settlement money isn't being distributed to Tesla shareholders. Separately on Thursday, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened a formal probe into Tesla Model 3 and Model Y vehicles, after receiving complaints about unexpected braking tied to its autopilot system.
Ecuador's National Assembly has approved regulations that will allow women and girls to get easier access to abortion in cases of rape. The decision came following a constitutional court's ruling last April decriminalising such abortions. Previously, Ecuador only allowed abortions when a woman's life was in danger. The regulation was passed with 75 votes to 41. Though the National Assembly has adopted the measure, the rules can still be blocked by the Conservative President Guillermo Lasso. Under the new rules, women over 18 will be able to abort pregnancies up to 12 weeks gestation or 18 weeks for teens and minors. Dozens of pro-choice activists and anti-abortion protesters demonstrated in front of the Legislative Palace. Abortion rights campaigners said the time limits were too restrictive and would force victims to continue to seek illegal means to terminate pregnancies. Despite strict laws, over 21,000 abortions take place on average in Ecuador each year, many in unauthorized clinics.
Plazos restrictivos que van a impedir el acceso real al acceso al aborto por violación. En esta sociedad en donde se registran más de 16 denuncias diarias de violencia sexual con un subregistro enorme y sin embargo frente a esta indolente Asamblea Nacional se nos impone más barreras para que las niñas sean obligadas a maternar, a parir o a buscar abortos en la clandestinidad y exponer su vida.
And finally today, the renowned lingerie brand Victoria's Secret has taken an historic decision. We will leave you with that story. I'm Ollie Barrett. Thanks as ever for watching. See you next week.